I like what you said earlier. When someone says like, now here's the facts, you decide. Right?
Yeah.
I even find that really frustrating in a debate setting. So, hey, you guys go, you read the primary documents, you read the studies.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I came here because I don't have time or background knowledge to even understand. But it's a way, I think, for the debater to show they're being objective. And if you were to look into this yourself, you would come to the same conclusion as myself.
This is deeply rooted in our approach to Christianity, and it's profoundly un-Christian.
What do you mean?
That we don't want to be sheep following a shepherd. We want to read all the biblical data, all the patristic data, form all the theological opinions, and then find a church that agrees with us. We want to be the shepherd. We want to be the pope. We want to be the key figure in the religion, and that is not what we're called to be. Like, it's great if you understand theology. It's wonderful if you can understand why the church teaches A, B, C, D, E. That's not necessary for the faith. Faith is ultimately still an act of trust. So the church historically has distinguished between what's called religious assent and real assent. Religious assent is, I believe this thing because you tell me so. And real assent is, I believe this thing because I see the truth of it for myself. Real assent is great, but you're not going to get that on every issue under the sun. Even as someone who's like full-time in Catholic stuff, there are issues which I just haven't taken a close look at. And so I just trust the church got them right. I've never done a deep dive to say, well, how do we know X, Y, Z?
This is true not just of faith-related issues, but every single thing you believe.
Right.
That my wife is actually who she says she is. That these stairs that I'm walking on aren't about to collapse, you know.
Right. And so this was one of the major things with like new atheism is they wanted to push back against the need for faith, which was taking this impulse of we'll decide for ourselves to its logical limit. And it is an absolute absurdity. Because even if you say I'll decide based on the studies, well, there's a huge replication crisis in science where studies that looked right the first time we did them, we rerun the experiment and don't get the same result. Sometimes it's a hoax. Sometimes it was just a misdesigned experiment. Sometimes, you know, so even when you're deciding, you're actually taking on faith that the evidence being presented to you is what it claims to be.
And not just the evidence, but the interpretation of the lead researcher.
Right.
There's been instances where, I won't mention the name because this is a vicious woman who's come after me several times. I'll leave it at that. She did a study trying to show that pornography didn't have kind of addictive related changes in the brain. And she was wrong. Well, her interpretation was, see, it's not like a drug. And then a ton of, well, not a ton, I think there was at least several neuroscientists said, your findings are accurate, you misinterpreted them.
Yeah. There was a somewhat famous case in Sweden. There were two researchers looking at people who'd had so-called like sex reassignment surgeries. And Sweden has pretty open medical records. So you can get a nationwide sort of example. So they looked at different people who'd been diagnosed with gender dysphoria, and they tracked the long-term outcomes of those who'd gotten the surgery and those who had not. And these are about as close as you can get to a perfect, widespread case study. And they released this press release and everything else with their study. It's international news that having sex change operations is good for your long-term health, and you're less likely to attempt suicide, and you're less likely to be depressed, and da-da-da-da-da. And it turned out they had compiled all good data, and they had misread the numbers. And it said the exact opposite of what they were saying, that actually the people who'd had the operations were having worse outcomes. They were more likely to have attempted suicide, were more likely to be depressed. And it took other researchers to say, hold up, your own tables actually say the opposite of what you're saying. So all that's to say, if they, who are doing this full time and seemingly weren't doing this on purpose, because you wouldn't purposely destroy your own reputation internationally, can get that wrong, what are the odds that I'm just going to be like, oh yeah, well, let me tell you the data on. Of course I'm not going to just, you report, I decide.
And I want to tell you about Hallow, which is the #1 downloaded prayer app in the world. It's outstanding. Hallow.com/Matt Fradd. Sign up over there right now and you will get the first 3 months for free. That's like a lot of time. You can decide whether it's useful to you or not, whether it's helpful. If you don't like it, you can always quit. Hallow.com/Matt Fradd. I use it. My family uses it. It's fantastic. There are over 10,000 audio guided prayers, meditations, and music, including my lo-fi. Hallow has been downloaded over 15 million times in 150 different countries. It helps you pray, helps you meditate, helps you sleep better. It helps you build a daily routine and a habit of prayer. There's honestly so much excellent stuff on this app that it's difficult to get through it all. Just go check it out. Hallow.com/Matt hallow.com/MattFrad. The link is in the description below. It even has an entire section for kids. So if you're a parent, you could play little Bible stories to them at night. It'll help them pray. Fantastic. hallow.com/MattFrad.